All right. Thank you all for coming out. My name is Arinze. I'm a senior economics major at Amherst, and I think I speak for everyone when we say that like this year has been like really crazy. 2020 has been really crazy, and just like going through the COVID pandemic and even the aftermath of it is just, it's been a really weird environment to navigate. And I'm sure all of us have kind of dealt with like personal like traumas and personal struggles. And you know, personally for me, like I kind of went through a little phase in earlier this year that I was happy to come out of. And then something very significant happened in the like beginning of the school year that really had me had me really shook actually. And so coming back, I was just kind of thinking of like, what's the best way to kind of deal with some traumatic event like that. And I'll get into it in a minute, but I just wanted to kind of explain the purpose of this panel is to just like show, just kind of like sit here in our united front and show like, you know, different people on the board from different backgrounds and just different things that we've gone through or we've helped other people go through and how we've moved forward from that. And hopefully like some of the things that we say will resonate with everyone that's here and everyone's on the Zoom call. And yeah, so just to kind of get into it. So earlier in like September, I actually was going to see a concert back in New York. And you know, it was like September 19th. The concert ran into pretty late. It was in the city, it was in Queens. And it was a really good time, started the videos and everything. On my way back, I was taking the subway around like 4-ish in the morning because I needed to take the bus at Port Authority back to Amherst. And kind of keep a long story short, I was like on the subway platform transferring trains. And there's like a guy who sort of like was like sizing me up, and I was just kind of like, I'm trying to get to where I'm gonna get to. And then he kind of like gestures that he has like a gun in his bag and then tells me to like sit down. And he asked me if I have any money, all that stuff. And I was like, give my wallet. Like, I'm not trying to like, you know, I don't know what, you know, this guy's capable of, but I'm not trying to play any games because like obviously this is a very crazy situation. And he's like, yeah, if you do anything funny, like I will shoot you. And then another guy comes in so it ended up being 3 people, and it was just crazy because it was 3 people. One of them had a gun. The other guy was like the hacker, or whatever. He kind of like went through my savings, like cleared out my account, and this other guy, I guess, was just being like the threat or whatever. And it was just like whole time I'm just like, is this really happening? Like I was just like, I really went through like a really bad phase early in 2021. And I'm like, came back to Amherst, super happy, and like this is happening right now. And you know, it's just like it has really thinking about stuff. And obviously they're saying like a bunch of crazy stuff. Like the guy with the gun at one point, he's like, I should like shoot you in your legs so you can never run into the truckers. He's just saying a lot of like crazy stuff. And like now that I think about it, like I did handle the situation pretty well. Like I was pretty calm. Didn't really like get flustered or anything, but it's just like I came back and it was just like, no, this is like not okay. And obviously I saw resources on campus. But I was just like, nah, I think it would be very like great for me and for like the greater community if I kind of shared this and just kind of shared like at least my healing process, and then had other people not even like allude exactly to their lives or like just what they've seen, because all of us on this panel right now sort of like dealt with trauma to some capacity, whether we're directly in it or we're helping people get through it. So before I continue, I just want to like introduce everyone on the board. This is Emily. If you just want to say a few words about yourself. And if you can't hear me, just like tell me to speak up because I'm technically bad.
I'm Emilly Kelly. I used to work at Amherst as one of the Amherst Leads program coordinators, and now I'm at UMass as Director of Student Athlete Development. I was overjoyed to see Arinze put the work in to really think about his vision for this panel and to share the hardships that he's been through. So I'm really happy to be a part of it and offer insight from my own personal experiences of how I've overcome trauma and aided my loved ones overcoming that as well.
I'm Susie Belleci, and I'm the director of the Center for Restorative Practices on campus. And I have been in the field of international peace building for a number of years, working in conflict zones and post-conflict zones in Iraq and Palestine, Israel, Kosovo, Bosnia, working with Northern Irish youth, Rwanda. And I've worked with lots of folks who have experienced trauma, and colleagues, friends, loved ones, my own loved ones, and seen a lot of resilience as well. And I'm happy to share some of those experiences today.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Dora Urujeni, and I'm from Rwanda, and I live in Bronxboro now, and I work with Community Asylum Seekers Project, where I am the case manager. So I work with people who are seeking asylum in the US, especially from the southern border, so people who speak Spanish. And yeah, back home, I worked on many projects. I was involved in the reconciliation process after the genocide. So I worked with victims and offenders during the process. And yeah, I'm in Bronxboro since September 2017, and I was a student at SIT, yeah, where I pursued my master's in conflict transformation. I'm here to share my experience and the experience of people I work with. Yeah, thank you.
And like everyone on the panel knows, like I'm super grateful that you guys are able to be here, because at one point I didn't know if this was gonna happen like this by this date, and you know, just there were a couple last minute changes. I'm just glad everything happened. But before we get into the questions, I think one thing we want to emphasize is that, like, although like I am just like a college senior, I guess we're all sharing like stories about things that we've gone through equally, and it's not this person's more versed with trauma than this person. Like when it comes to things like this, like it doesn't matter if you went through something like that's barely significant or really significant. Like if it affects you and if you really feel like it hurts him, then it's legitimate. So just wanted to preface the whole talk before we get into that, and just have like a few questions that sort of takes you through the beginning of like when you go through a traumatic experience, like the immediate aftermath, the process of healing, and then how you turn that healing into something good. And that as we go through the questions, like I guess I'll ask Emily and we'll go down the line, and I'll be the last one to answer, and then I'll ask the second question and so on and so forth. So the first question is, what do you see as essential in navigating the healing process, and what components do you feel are required? This can be in your personal experience or like in what the experiences that you've helped others with. So we can start with you, Emily.
I think in my personal experiences, one of the most prominent aspects of processing trauma is acknowledging the impact that it's had on you. I personally am someone who avoids by any means necessary, and it has been a rude awakening these past 2 years of truly facing myself and my own traumas, and frankly, the way that I process things, and being honest with myself about how harmful that can be to my own growth and my own healing. And so I think that acknowledgement piece is truly one of the most challenging pieces, and giving yourself space to actually feel it rather than intellectualizing your emotions. I think those are probably the two major components for me, is that acknowledgement piece and to actually feel through it rather than distancing yourself from said emotions.
Can you read the question again?
No worries. So what do you see as essential in navigating the healing process? And in addition to that question, like what components do you feel required to go through that healing process?
I think along with acknowledgement, self-acknowledgement, but awareness, self-awareness that I'm in pain and it's real, is that you are believed. I've seen that in my work, and I have a particular story that's coming to mind about a group of Bosnians and Serbs that were in a circle together after their civil war. And one of the women was beginning to tell a story about a sexual assault, and it was by a soldier. And the Serbian educators in the room, they had a chance to say, I'm sorry that happened to you, because we were sitting in circle, in a dialogue circle, and they had been working together for a number of years. So they were getting closer and closer and closer on their reconciliation path. But this was a thorny moment for them. And they were talking amongst themselves, and they said, we can't say I'm sorry because we didn't do it. And one of the facilitators in the circle said, would you be able to say that you're sorry for what was done in your name or on behalf of your people? And they talked again, and they said, we can't say that either. We can't, we don't even believe that our soldiers would be possible to do something like that. And so then she said, would one of you be willing to actually believe her? You don't have to say you're sorry, and you don't have to acknowledge that you had any culpability or responsibility as a people. And one of them, they were talking, and no one was willing to get up. And then one of them got up and broke the circle and crossed over and sat in front of her and knelt in front of her. I'll say her name is Mary. Knelt in front of Mary, and she said, I believe you. And it was a really profound moment for Mary, just to be believed by representatives of this soldier who had harmed her. And I think that's an important part of healing, that someone believes you.
Yeah, so I remember that sometimes being from a culture that really doesn't necessarily like share stories, or you don't, or where sharing your trauma means that you're being weak and you're exposing yourself. So what is really essential is being aware that there's something wrong and it's okay, and be willing to ask for help before maybe the situation gets worse. So because I know that I come from a collective culture where we don't necessarily like go see a therapist or a counselor. So, but going beyond really that value and seeking help, that's really so much important and necessary, because that's where the healing process starts. If you don't really seek for help and you think you're strong, it may even get worse and worse. So for me, I think being aware that something is wrong and you're willing to ask for help, and yeah.
Yeah. One thing that Dora touched on that I feel like I always tell myself that like it's okay to like not be okay, and I think people, because at the end of the day, everyone's going through what they're going through, and I think people feel like they have to put on like this tough person front and try to just like muster through without seeking help. And it could be because of personal reasons, cultural reasons, as you said. But one thing that's, to answer the question, one thing that I've been using to kind of help me get through the experiences. Just, I feel like this semester I've been like pretty like interactive and social more than I've been in the past, just because just like my senior year, why not? But some days I'm just gonna turn it off, and some days like I just don't want to really be as active, and it's not because like I feel like there's something wrong with me. It's just like sometimes you just have to turn it off a little bit and like process things, so that way you can bring your best self forward and not like burn out and then you know permanently mess something up or permanently damage yourself emotionally to the point where like you can never get to that exciting or like active moment again. So yeah, for me, just like taking those times to just reflect and be to myself and really tell myself that it's okay to not be okay. I think that's a really, really important thing. So the next question is, what is a common theme that you've seen in your work of supporting people in the healing process? So this kind of takes a step back from you being in it, but you're supporting people.
Yeah. I think a common theme that has come to, I mean, I'm very student facing. I do like leadership, life skills, career development. So when you work that closely with students, you tend to become like a trusted source for them. And so I've been in a lot of settings where I have students disclose some pretty heavy stuff. And I have found that one of the most common themes as they share those things with me is what Dora mentioned about not wanting to ask for help, of viewing me as a trusted source to kind of disclose this heavy scenario, heavy trauma to, but feeling like they don't have the bandwidth to ask for help, and feeling like maybe they don't, maybe not that they don't, but that they're not necessarily ready or in the headspace to disclose such deep and heavy stuff to the people that need to hear it in order to help them. And when I say help them, I mean like from kind of a larger scale professional way, because you know, it's helpful to be heard and to be believed, like Susie mentioned, and then by someone that you trust. But I think ultimately, that's the most common theme I've seen in my work with students is that struggle to advocate for themselves. And it's hard. I mean, I personally still struggle with it. I'm 27 years old and I'm still learning how to advocate for myself and my mental health. And it is an ever evolving journey. I mean, my parents are doing a lot of relearning. And my dad, especially, he's Jamaican, and Caribbean people do not believe in counseling and acknowledging mental health. And it has been such an experience trying to walk my dad to the space where he can ask for help. He can acknowledge the horrific things that he's experienced. And so if that is something you're struggling with, you're not alone, and it will be a continuous journey. But it's important that you take the steps at whatever pace you're comfortable with to go through that journey. So yeah, short answer is asking for help is the major theme that I've seen surface with my work.
And one of the themes I've seen is, this can't be happening to me. And because I've been in so many places around the globe where ordinary folks say, this can't be happening to me, this happens to other people. This horrible thing that's happening, unbelievable, unspeakable thing can't happen to me because it happens to them, whoever them are, or those people, as if there's like a group of us that are raised to be sort of harmed or tougher than we are, or used to that kind of struggle. And what I've seen in my work in many communities around the world is that trauma, harm, violence, pain, it can happen to every one of us. And we aren't so protected by our wealth or our status or our prestige as we think we could be. If only we had enough money, we could protect ourselves. If only we had enough power, we could protect ourselves. I've seen people that have had those things and still it wasn't enough to stop the trauma or the violence. And so I think one of the things I've seen over and over is just the shock that this is happening to me. And it's just, none of us are exempt from life's pain, not one of us.
Yeah, so to add more on what Susie was saying, so coming from a country that experienced genocide, it was the worst experience and stories that I've ever had in my life. And so when I came to the US, especially at SAT, we had like students from like 75 countries. And I knew that nobody has experienced genocide or nobody has experienced really tragic more than a genocide. So, but when I sat down, we would have like presentation in the evening and people would tell their stories from their countries. And I think, wow. So you mean that suffering and pain is the same all over the world. So it doesn't really matter who you are, rich or poor or white or black, it's all the same. So what I can say is like the common thing is that just listen and be present and get to know somebody. You never know somebody until really you sit and listen and know this person. So yeah, so in the work I'm doing is people are coming different area, but they went through different stories, but still trauma affects everybody. Yeah, no matter what is the root causes of your trauma, still it will affect you, or either different levels or one level or the other, but still it's the same. So listening and being present and yeah, supporting, being there and yeah.
Yeah, taking a step back from my experience, it's sort of, I don't know if irony is the right word, but right after the event happened to me, I just happened to speak with a lot of like close friends of mine, and I just realized like that although I feel like my experience was obviously not very, I was very unfortunate. People go through like a lot of stuff in general, and you have no idea. These are people who are just the happiest, you know, always smiling, and like these are the same people who've gone through like great, like, and I think about how I dealt with this situation, and I am proud of myself, but I step back and I'm just like, I don't know if these people are sharing this with me in confidentiality. I'll express to them, like, I don't know how I would be able to face that situation. Like all of you said, it doesn't matter. Like socioeconomic class, race, gender, it doesn't matter. Like everybody goes through everything. And the theme that I found is that really it's the people who are the most, they seem okay, like outwardly, like they seem like they're just so headstrong. And seem like, you know, their spirit is never dampened in public, but when you have that one-on-one with them, it's like they're really strong and they're really like they're battling like really deep battles. So that's how I answer that question. Moving on to the next, I think this is probably one of my favorite ones is what is a common initial reaction that you all have seen to how people immediately deal with a tough situation? So immediately after you dealt with something or you're talking to somebody and their immediate reaction to it, like what was that without thinking about healing, just initial reaction?
I think speaking for myself, my most my consistent reaction to traumas in my life has been to shut down. I get to a point where it's too painful and I truly go numb. I focus my energy elsewhere and refuse to look inward, or to acknowledge. I lost one of my childhood friends who was also my neighbor, who was also my fellow soccer goalkeeper, fanatic. It's like a brother to me. I lost him in 2016. He drowned and I was not home. I was away from the island. And he was missing for 48 hours in the water. And so I kind of just, as we all did, held our breath. And when my mom called me to give me the news that his body had been found, I sobbed for about a minute or two straight, and then literally physically stopped as if I was a robot. And it was of no decision of my own. I didn't say, okay, I'm gonna stop crying now. I literally just stopped, and I didn't cry again for weeks. I just could not. I think the next time I cried was when I went home for his funeral. I could not bear it, and I just put it to the back, and shut it down. And so I think that has been the consistent reaction to all of my traumas. And I think my traumas, as they relate to my loved ones, I shut down my own emotions, but move forward for whatever they need. My younger sister attempted suicide twice this year, and my parents are on a learning curve about mental health and how to support people on that journey. And of my family, I'm probably the most aware of mental health and how to navigate those spaces. And so they leaned on me a lot on how to support her and how to talk to her. I mean, my dad didn't even know what to say to her. And that was a really interesting experience for me, because I emotionally, when I got the call, she was at a boarding school. I was here working at Amherst, and she was about 20 minutes away. And I got the call that she had been taken to the ER. And so I had to be in go mode, and I didn't even give myself a second to feel it. I just said, okay, I got to go to the hospital. I got to speak with her doctors. I got to speak with the school counselor. I got to call my parents and tell them what happened. I have to call my older sister and let her know. And so I was very much in a space of holding everyone else up and not giving myself time or space to process the emotions that my 15-year-old sister tried to take her own life. And so I think that initial reaction of just shutting down is still something that I have not figured out. I think I've gotten better at feeling the emotions sooner rather than later. But in the initial moments of crisis, I refuse to feel, and that's not the healthiest approach. But I'm working on it. And yeah, so shutting down is definitely that initial approach.
Yeah, so my personal reaction to the trauma is really, have you ever been in a situation where you don't know how to define the reaction or the feeling or the emotion? So I went through a traumatic really time while I was pregnant of my son. So at the same time, I was shocked and then in denial of what happened to me. And I tried to avoid and disconnect myself so that the baby can be safe. So it really took time. I shut down tears. I shut down, like, feeling sad, and just so that my baby wouldn't be affected. And then after that, when I gave birth, that's how I started now my journey of like processing and, crying. I would feel like I just want to go in the wood and scream. I felt like I need to, when I came here, I felt like I want to go somewhere that nobody will hear me and I will scream out. So I shut down all my tears and I was sitting in class at the SIT and tears will come down. And I say, what is happening to me? I'm in a class. I left that class. I never really went back in that class. It was like training. And I say, I wanted this class, but I can't. Every time I would sit in a class, I would just, tears would come and I would run in the bathroom. I say, what is happening to me? So that was the time that I started processing, like healing, crying and acknowledging what happened to me, how hard it was and how it affected me. So yeah, it's a mix of like reaction, of shutting down, avoiding, and trying to pretend as if you're strong and you're not, you understand when you're falling apart. So it's a mix of reaction and
I think for me, the shutting down is what I share with the both of you. And when I was witnessing my husband being taken away by soldiers, I knew that his colleagues had been killed the week before by soldiers. And I was, at the time they were taking him, saying, why aren't you taking me? I'm doing what he's doing, take me also. And they ignored me and they took him. And after that, I shut down so much that his fellow human rights workers swarmed around me for the rest of the day in a way that's a blur to me. And they just brought me to an apartment that was strange to me, and they were trying to be on the phone with getting lawyers and trying to find out where they had taken him. And they were just all a hub of activity. And I just felt like, this is wrong that I'm just sitting here. But it was almost like watching a movie. And even when they wanted me to go to the courtroom eventually to watch his arraignment, they were dolling me up like with makeup and clothes because they wanted me to look pretty for the courtroom, for the judges, so that I would look unthreatening and human rights activist looking. And I let them do all that. I was just like a puppet, really. And the whole time period is a blur to me of being frozen and numb. And many months later, when I came back to the US, a colleague came where I was teaching a class, and at the break, she came and pulled me out and she said, Susie, I've talked to you and asked you so many times, what happened? What happened there? What happened there? And you say you don't want to talk about it. And she said, I haven't seen you cry once. And I want to help you cry. And I thought, I can't access those tears. I couldn't access those tears. So I share that shutting down and unable to really feel.
Well, first of all, thank you all for sharing that. I think this is like my favorite question because for me, like, there's a lot of like ups and downs with how I dealt with my initial reaction to trauma. If I had asked myself this question a year ago, my response would be different from now. like last semester was just like a weird time because like I was on campus. I was actually living in Greenway, and I just didn't understand like why I wasn't just feeling like myself, and it was frustrating because I didn't know why I was like not feeling like myself. And I obviously talked to family, talked to counselors, trying to figure out what the root of this weird phase is coming from, and I couldn't figure it out. So I even remember I went to track the first week, and then our coaches is saying that when you like come to practice, try to leave everything, um, like everything off, like at the track, meaning that you come in with a clear mind. And that first week, I was coming to practice with everything on my mind. So I expressed that like I would have to withdraw from the semester, and just like a bunch of clubs as well. Like I was on our like council, there was constant methods of color. Like I kind of stepped. I was still on the board, but I wasn't really going to meetings. It was just a lot of stuff that it was frustrating. So my initial reaction then was just to shut down and to withdraw. And it was so easy because with COVID, we weren't in person, so it was just so easy to sit in my room. But that wasn't a good way for me to deal with that trauma because I was shutting down it too much. Like I wasn't eating, or I wasn't, I was losing sleep, like a lot of that stuff. Um, so after fortunate, and even I had an internship over the summer, like a pretty prestigious firm, and everyone was great there, but like I'm still shutting down, and even my manager was like, "Is everything okay?" Because like you're doing the work, and like you seem like you're very headstrong, but like you're just, it's like something's missing. And I'm not gonna tell them like what I'm going through. You know what I mean? Like I'm dealing with that by myself. That's what I was thinking back then. I'm dealing with whatever I'm dealing with right now. I'm not gonna tell you. Um, but then with this event that happened a few weeks ago, I like came so after I got robbed. Obviously, like I filed a police report, and I was like, okay, I had a panel actually right here for Stephanie Hoffman, who's like our careers and finance director. And a few weeks ago, I had said that I would speak here to like underclassmen, and I was like, let me just get back to campus. So like I got robbed at around like 5, and I got back to campus around 5. Walked from Drew I showered, walked to Drew to the Science Center, did the panel, came back to Drew House, we had a Drew House meeting. I called my mom, told her, and then I went to sleep. And I think for me, the reason why I dealt with it that way is just because in my mind, I said, there's no way I'm gonna deal with how I dealt with the last semester. That was just not for me. And I'm not saying this is the right or wrong way, it just is for me. And like, that's not what I'm gonna do. So that's why I feel like I just was so eager to jump out. I think I went to practice the next day, I went to classes. Obviously, I was seeking help as well. But my whole thing is I needed everything externally to be normal as possible so I could internally deal with what I had to deal with. And if everybody's like, woe is me, and like trying to make it seem, it is a big deal. I'm not saying it's not a big deal. But if everyone is trying to like make an exception for me, then I'm gonna feel like othered. And I don't like feeling like that. I don't like getting handouts or feeling like, so I was just so eager to jump into stuff. So that was my initial reaction. But the reason why I asked that question was because one of our last questions is just like, what are the best methods and tools that you all used in navigating from like these traumatic experiences to a triumphant phase, or a phase where you are all able to sit here and like talk about your experiences, and even though we're all getting pretty emotional, like we are very capable and comfortable doing it. Whereas me a year ago, I would not do this at all, like at all. So to repeat the question again, what are the best methods that you've used in navigating from trauma to triumph?
Well, before I answer, I want to say I'm very proud of you for your growth and the way that you have navigated handling your own traumas, because that's big, and some very grown folk have not even done that. So for my answer, I think being proactive, for a lack of a better term, I think thinking about who you are, how you navigate life, and what you respond to, like what motivates you, what makes you happy, what calms you, what diffuses you when you're seeing red. I think if you're mindful of those things and you're introspective about that, that when you are faced with these sometimes feeling impossible scenarios, you're that much more better equipped to deal with it and to take care of yourself. If you wait until you're seeing red to try and diffuse yourself, then that's going to be extremely difficult to do. If you wait till you're in a depressive episode to try and figure out how to get out, it's going to be that much harder. And I think if you do the work when you're in a better headspace, to put yourself in a better position to crawl your way out of that hole whenever stuff does pop off, because it will. If there's one thing guaranteed in life, it's that it will knock you down 10 times over. So if you do that work on the front end to really think critically about what you need and how to meet that for yourself, and also how your loved ones can do that for you. My best friend and I struggle with depression as well, and my depressive episodes can be really bad, where I will shut down and be in bed for days. And my best friend and I came up with a system of, she would send me a pulse check text, and all I had to do was like it, so that she knew I was alive and conscious. And another one of my close friends, if I go a couple days without answering her, she kind of would pick up that I was having a difficult time, and would send me funny office memes. And maybe I wouldn't externally laugh or smile, but it brought a little warmth to my heart. And so I think, again, not to be too redundant, but just really thinking critically about who you are and what you respond to. And it's not saying that you're going to get it right the first time or the second or the third. I mean, it's as you continue to grow, what you respond to will continue to evolve. And so as long as you're staying in tune with yourself, I think, I'm not saying it's going to solve everything, but it will make it that much easier to navigate those scenarios, is what I've found.
Can you read the question one more time?
Yeah, so the question is just like, how have you been able to navigate from the traumatic experience and it's like a triumphant phase or a phase where like you seem to bounce back? That makes sense.
What tools?
Yeah.
In the work that I do, I've seen different folks use different tools, and I think that's important, that there's no one size fits all. And sometimes we think, well, therapy's the thing, and that could be the thing for some of you. And for others of you, or in my experience, I've seen other people use other tools that are helpful to them, like prayer or meditation or singing or being in community with others that have shared similar experiences to them. I worked with a group of Iraqi college students, and they came to the US together, 50 of them, and then went out to different colleges and universities and learned some things in the summer, and then came back together. And they were then, I rejoined them for them to be broken up into small groups, to not talk about their trauma, not talk about the war, but to plan a project for when they went back home. And it was cross-sectarian groups, so Sunni and Shia together in small groups, like two Sunni and two Shia, and maybe two different genders, and different class, different regions of Iraq. And their projects were pretty simple. Well, I shouldn't say that. One of them had an anti-tobacco campaign, one small group. Another small group wanted to show men as caregivers of their babies and do a photographic exhibition of men holding their babies and caring for their babies. So, and another one was pollution on campus. And so that to me was really remarkable, because some of them who came in the beginning with so much I mean, these kids had literally seen war out their doors, out their windows, lost loved ones and relatives very close to them, and had such distrust of the other. And now they're in a group together, and they're not sitting in circle, my preferred methodology and story sharing. They are creating a project together and looking outward. I was also worked with a group of scientists in Israel and Palestine who did not talk about the conflict. They talked about environmental pollution. IPACRE is the name of the organization, and they work on water resource insecurity. And through that, healing can happen. So instead of facing each other, sort of facing a problem, and through that, finding their own healing, either in relationship or for themselves. So I think you being drawn to the healing that calls you, and trying that out, and trying out one that seems weird or strange to you as well, just in case the weird or strange one ends up being the one that works for you too. So that's some of what I've seen people try and use to overcome pretty harsh circumstances.
Yeah, so with people I work with, what I've seen that really helps them navigate from like trauma to triumph is we share like special event like food, and everybody will cook his hometown or her hometown food, and then we'll gather and have some food and laugh, so that they see that life is not only like, you know, bad things and, you know, like good memories. People have something they can celebrate. Yeah, and then, yeah, building trust, because before they open up, they need to know who is this person and can I trust the person? So I will share first my story, and so that they say, oh, we are not the only one. Yeah, so it will make me come close to them and open up and start their healing process. Yeah, me personally, as I said, my culture, we don't really share, we don't really do counseling or trauma therapists. So as I said that, I shut down my tears and no sharing. Though people will come and see me, I'll feel like, I wish they could ask me what happened to me so that I can talk it out and I can empty myself. But there, nobody can ask me. So when I got here, I went to therapy, and I will do it every week. I'll do counseling every week, because otherwise I couldn't really finish my school. And the other really thing that helped me is I choose the extreme. So from victimization to like going to a master's degree after going through such a traumatic situation. I came here, I had a child of 1 year and 3 months, and I went to a graduate school. It was crazy. Yeah, so, but I choose that way so that I can challenge myself instead of sitting at home and thinking of what happened to me, what I lost, how I became. So I wanted to focus in school, doing assignment, reading books, so that all my attention is in the book and performing it and setting a timeline. Trust me, I came to SIT September 2017, and I say by August 2018, I will capstone. So I did it. I did my master's in 1 year instead of 2 years. Because I will look at my son and say, I'm doing it for you, not for me. And then having somebody who's pushing you and who's challenging you. So Susie was like my engine. So when I was like Susie, I can't even write one page of assignment. And Susie will come and say, Dora, you can do it. I say, no, I'm not in the mood even writing one sentence. Have you ever seen like you're empty of ideas and you need to give away a paper? You feel like my brain is really shut down and it's frozen. And Susie will say, Dora, have you done something? You need to give to your supervisor this week. I say, Susie, leave me alone. I'm telling you, though at the same time, I wanted somebody to push me. It's really what I wanted. But instead, I say, you can't even read the status of my mind. I can't even write one word. I'll take my son to a daycare. I'll come on a computer and all day, nothing. I didn't write even one page. And Susie will call me, Dora, she had my timeline every week that I did. And she said, yeah, you need to give to John this week, this paper. And I say, Susie, you don't know. It's me. Leave me alone. But at the same time, so having somebody really who can push you, who understands you, and who knows who you are, and she will encourage me. She said, Dora, I know you can do it. I said, Susie, I'm no longer the same person. I think Susie will believe in me saying that you can make it. I said, I'm no longer that person. I'm broken now. I can't really do nothing. And she said, yes, you can. You are the same person I know. So, so choosing the extreme, the very hard aspect of the school, and then challenging myself and knowing that, this is the goal that I set and I'm gonna do it. So.
Yeah. Again, that was really powerful and inspirational words, and I kind of resonated with everything that you guys said, because again, so answering the question of how I've seen other people navigate through trauma to triumph, I have like a good friend of mine who, me and my friend, we met freshman year, and then he was kind of going through like a rough phase, so we took time off, and I thought he was coming back, but he had to restart his year, so basically he had to be a freshman and he was supposed to be a senior. I was talking to him today, and I was like, bro, I would not, like, I know me, I wouldn't be able to do that, like, and he was telling me how for him, it was like, obviously he was going through a traumatic experience, but during that experience, he was like, he had transferred schools to like a school that was not like at a level like Amherst, and he's there, and he's like, I know I can like do better because I was here for Amherst one semester, and although I was struggling, like I made it here, and basically kind of like bet on himself. He was like, even though I have to sort of like take a step back, like I have like enough confidence in like myself, my ability, that like I'll be able to take that sacrifice for me in the long run. Because it's all like, it's just a leap of faith, like there's no guarantee. So he's like, in the long run, like I have enough confidence to know that I'll have a better like outcome. And that for me was just like, I was like, that's crazy, because I know if I left last semester, or if I left my freshman year and went to like another school, and then I wanted to go back to Amherst and decided to be a freshman as a senior, I'm like, no, I'm just finishing. Like I'm not restarting again. So I think that's really inspirational for him. And then for me, like, I think for me, I just, I think at the core of everything, like you can't really control how you process like certain emotions or process certain experiences, but you can't control like like what you outwardly do with it. So you can choose to be like bitter, or you can choose to like just go to a hermit, or you can like, because at the end of the day, it's just like emotion, like it's not negative or positive, but then the emotion becomes positive or negative when you like outwardly do something with it. So for me, I've just been trying to do a lot of like things that are motivational, and from like academically to like athletically, socially, because like it is like inspiration. And when you go through like really traumatic experiences that we all have, you start to look at certain things and sort of like little things here and there, and just, like, just don't sweat the small stuff like that. That expression is, I think when you go through something very serious, you start to realize that something that a year ago would really bother you is not really bothering you. And like, that's how you get, for me, that's how I've gotten over stuff. It's just like, I see all these little things like what's a bad test grade gonna do? Like, what's a fallout with someone gonna do? It's really not that big of a deal. Because at the end of the day, my life is on the line. That's really like exactly the motto I've lived by, this semester. As we're kind of closing in, I think the last question, and I sort of answered already, is how have you seen people turn their unfortunate situations into motivation? And we sort of kind of recapped on that, but if you kind of want to give a final word about how you taken a bad situation and used it, not only made it a good situation, but use it as like fuel to keep you going.
What comes to mind when you pose that question is identifying the line between turning a negative experience into a lesson or a positive one and toxic positivity. Toxic positivity has been more and more talked about in recent years, but I think it's important to acknowledge that it doesn't always have to be negative to positive. It can be negative to neutral, or it can be negative to acceptance and moving on. And I think that when people hear that, oh, I want to flip this from a negative into a positive, that they imagine it's going to be like a light switch and just like, oh, this is devastating. Actually, I learned X, Y, Z from it. Cool, I'm good. And that's just not realistic. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that in ourselves and acknowledge that as we support our loved ones as they navigate hardships, and instead of when someone's coming to you to complain, instead of the, well, at least you did this, or well, at least you have that kind of response. And while it's absolutely well intended to kind of help them reframe, it can also be hard. You want to give people space to process things. You want to give people space to complain and simply be heard. And so I just really want to emphasize that fine line between toxic positivity and turning things from a negative to a positive. Yeah, that makes sense. I'll put it in talk in circles.
I think I'll think about the question a little longer. Do you want to go?
Yeah. So as I said, what I experienced, it was like, I don't know how to describe it, but at the same time, I was like pregnant, and then myself and thinking of my baby. And so when I got SAT, one of my teachers from Japan just called me and said, Dora, I heard what happened to you. Would you tell me the story? So I told him my story, and he told me one thing: Dora, don't let the past define who you are. And so use it as an opportunity to build your future. It was at the beginning of the year, and I would go in the class just thinking about the word and what he told me. Because thinking of what happened to me, I would be like, oh, I'm no longer good enough. I can't even really, finish this master's program, and I'm not capable. So, you feel shame, you feel incapable, all those bad feelings and emotion. And so every time that I would think of what he told me, yeah, I'll say yes. So I'll do this. And that's how I came, and I did my master's in 1 year, when other people after me, they did it in 3 years or 2 years. So I said, what happened, but it's not who I am, and it's not who I would be. So yeah, so I'll say that I never, So I watched American Got Talent, and I saw a guy who went to jail for 37 years while he was innocent. And this guy had the dream of becoming a singer. And he was on AGT. And they asked him, what made you pursue your dream even when you were in jail? So he said that he was in jail, but he never allowed his mind to be in prison. I said, this is what I need. Yeah, so yeah, what happened, no matter what. But I won't let this situation affect my future or my dreams. So I'm gonna pursue my dream and I'm gonna make it.
That's good enough.
That's a great
Yeah.
note.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, that's especially the very good. That's Howard's story. I think what you said about how the guy said that he was in prison, but like it's all like the mind. That's one thing that I realized. Like if your mind shuts down, then you're just done. But if you just have like a little more, you have like a little extra energy in your mind, like that can carry you for miles. Like I said, I think we've all answered the question pretty thoroughly about how we kind of navigated the traumatic experiences, like a place where we might not be like triumphant, but we're like in a positive trajectory. And like before Brady's on the call, so she's gonna close us out. I just want to say something that I didn't think I was gonna have to say, but this week has kind of been like weird for me. Like just a lot of stuff has been like, I came up with this panel and I'm thinking like, this is supposed to be like a really good week and then just get blindsided by all different directions. Like, and one thing that I want to just say that I was thinking about like earlier this afternoon is like, there's like a delicate balance. For one, I think that you have to realize, like I said earlier, it's okay to feel like what you're going, it's okay to experience the emotions that you're going through. But you can't control that, but you can control like how you treat other people because of it. And me personally, and I don't know if this is like the right approach, but like all of us have gone through trauma. Like you can't compare trauma, but like it's not okay to like project that and be mean to other people because of like what you're doing or what you're going through. Because like we have resources, we have a counselors that made it. Like there's plenty of, you can talk to your friend, talk to your family. But if you're gonna like go out and sort of make other people feel bad because you're feeling bad, I personally have no sympathy for that. But at the same time, I think the balance comes in when also, like if you're going through certain, like you may be going through something and somebody from the outward looking in may not understand the severity of it, and they may say something like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, because they don't know. But like one thing that I realize is like, if you think it's a big deal, that it is a big deal, like don't let other people literally delegitimize like your feelings. But at the same time, like don't try to put that on like someone else. Like don't try to make other people like, because the harsh reality is like everyone has their own agenda. So like just because you feel like really strong about something doesn't mean the next person has to. Positive and negative. So just like, it's just been a lot of funny stuff that's going on this week. And I think one thing that I took away from it is that like if you really feel like you've been like disrespected or offended, like, and it's objectively wrong, like, and people want to say, oh, maybe like what's wrong is wrong, and if you feel wrong, then you're justified, but don't like try to project that out into other people. And that's something that like I'm still working on. No, I mean, I've never been one to project at all, but like internally, sometimes I want to, but like whenever I feel like I'm getting to that point, I just like listen to music or like stop. But I want to get to the point where it's like I don't even have to like have that moment where it's just like I already know. like it's not even worth my time, because the same people trying to project onto you or say certain things about you, if they really feel that way about you, then they don't even know you. They're not really like, you know? So that's just my final thoughts. And I think, well, first of all, thanks everyone for coming. And I think Biddy would like to say a few words, so if you could just come here.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, we can.
Oh, there it goes. Sorry.
I say sorry to inanimate objects too.
Wait, they're going to get the projector down.
Okay,
There it is. Are you unmuted on that computer? Oh, it won't matter. Never mind. Woo! Arinze.
I think you're
there I
good.
am. There I am.
We're just gonna turn the volume up a little bit.
Okay,
All right, try now.
how's that?
I think it's.
Can y'all hear her?
Yeah.
Barely.
Just working through some technical stuff. But I think like if this is the most it should go. If that's what we were trying to do.
I think this
earlier.
is as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah, I think you're good to go.
The speaker?
go.
Be very quiet.
You do it. I don't know. Oh, you will. Come on.
We ready?
Actually, give us like 2 more minutes, sorry.
That's okay. Take your time. How is it now? I'm good to go. Arinze, I want to tell you how much I admire what you've done, which is to take an extraordinarily difficult and terrifying experience and turn it into an occasion to help other people think about the impact of trauma and what some of the best ways, most effective ways to deal with it are. I so admire it, and I'm grateful for it, and also for the wisdom and the insight of all the panelists and your willingness to be vulnerable enough to talk about your own experiences and the experiences that you've helped others endure. It has been hard at moments just to bear witness to other people's pain, and ultimately really helpful. And I think I just want to thank all of you all. And I wish I could be there. I wish I could see the audience and say to everyone who's gathered, whatever you've experienced, whatever you are experiencing, I hope everyone can take heart from what we've heard and find, all of us, our own ways to reach out, to get help, and to help one another. Arinze, thank you so much for inviting me, for letting me know you were thinking of doing this, for letting me be one of many, I'm sure, who encouraged you to go forward with it. And thanks again, as I said, to all the panelists.
I just unmuted you.
All right. Well, thank you for, again, taking your time. I know you have a little predicament with your injury, so I hope you're recovering. And yeah, thank you so much for coming out, and everybody who's on Zoom. And it really means a lot to me. Like, you guys didn't have to do this. It's the end of the semester. I know, like, we all want to be in a situation. You guys made an effort to come out here. It really does mean a lot to me. Like, it's a respect thing for me. Like, I think respect is my biggest value, and like the fact that you guys all came out is very meaningful. So thank you.
Thank you for that.